And I'm glad to say that here in the studio is Annan, who is Denmark's ambassador to Turkiye. Mr. Ambassador, thank you so much for coming in. I know that you have been to the southeast of Turkey. Dan Jorgensen, Denmark's Minister for Development Cooperation, was there. You accompanied him. We heard what he said, but what did you see?
I, of course, had expectations about what to see, but what I actually saw was much more devastation and suffering than I had even imagined.
Have you ever been in a situation like that before?
It was actually quite interesting because several members of the delegation, including the minister, had been in war zones before. And they said what they saw could not even be compared to what they have seen in war zones. It was total destruction.
Were you able to speak to local people?
We also had a chance to speak to local people, primarily actually in a village in Altınözü district, just next to one of the craters created by the earthquake. And I clearly remember how they described it, a very loud noise in the middle of the night, like 10 thunderstorms at the same time. They go out and then they see this massive hole in the ground. In Antakya city, it was mostly rescue workers, people removing the rubble, the debris from the destruction of the earthquake.
And at that moment, it must have been really quite difficult to see how the area where you were in would even begin its reconstruction program because of the amount of devastation. How is Denmark able to help Turkiye here?
We're doing our best. When we heard about the earthquake 6th of February, immediately the government also got into action and started sending money to assist. We have also done it later in the process when the Danish minister was here last week. He doubled the Danish financial contribution. So now the government of Denmark has contributed with more than $10 million. But I would also like to stress that that is actually only a small part of it. What has made me very proud and what has really warmed my heart is to see the reaction of the Danish business community, the reaction of the Danish community in general, but also the Danish-Turkish community, and all the support they have supplied to Turkey since the devastating earthquake last month.
Your country has a history of that. I know many Danes who have taken up social causes in foreign nations, leaving Denmark to fight for equality in other countries, just individual citizens. I'm not talking about a government level. What about the Turkish diaspora in Denmark? Is it large? Is it driving more humanitarian aid fundraising?
It's in a European context. It's a rather small community. It's 65,000 Danes of Turkish origin, and they have been driving the call for funds. But I would also like to stress it is not limited to the Danish-Turkish community. It is a general call, and Danes have been very, very generous. Some Danish companies, one company in particular, provided 10,000 winter jackets for Afat. Another company contributed with 1,000 containers, prefab houses, food kits, medical kits, tents, blankets, like a very, very broad contribution from the Danish side.
Yeah, and absolutely. Anybody who's been watching the coverage will know how much it's all needed. But this is an area double the size of the Netherlands, about the size of Bulgaria. So any international assistance is going to be extremely valuable. Does Denmark send the material here and then leave it to local agencies to distribute? Is that it? Is that the contribution? Just send it and then let locals deal with it?
Denmark is a country, as you also mentioned, with a long history of humanitarian assistance. For the Danish government, it's not so much about having the Danish flag put on the humanitarian assistance. It's more about helping people in need. So some of our support has been given directly to Afat. But most of the support has been given to NGOs, so Kisilai, Red Crescent, Danish Red Cross, Danish Refugee Council, Save the Children, organizations like that. They have been receiving our support.
Ambassador Annan, thank you so much indeed. Honestly, I mean, presumably your home is in Ankara and you've come to Istanbul to talk to us. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me.